Alright, so a little while back, I got sick of paying for Netflix, Disney Plus and the like for just a couple of different movies and then subscribing to another streaming service because Netflix and Disney Plus doesn't have what I'm looking for. You know, we're living in expensive times, and so I got desperate to find a way to watch 4K movies at a convenient price, let's just say. And because my Samsung TV runs Tizen OS, I decided that was a no-go because it's quite literally the worst TV OS created. And every time I use it, I just get this sudden urge to put a hole in the TV. And so a bit of research online introduced me to the world of Android TV boxes. But very quickly, I found out that you can't just hop on Amazon and buy whatever looks good because a lot of those cheap Android boxes out there that promise a lot for very little don't actually even run Android TV at all. They actually run a ported version of mobile Android and are filled to the brim with malware. So, fearing that I'd accidentally be committing cybercrimes at the highest degree, I decided not to buy one of those and instead I bought this. This is the Google Chromecast with Google TV 4K that came out almost 4 years ago back in late 2020 with a price tag of about €70 or dollars. You see, traditionally, Chromecasts were just casting devices, so basically all they did was play things on your TV screen because you accidentally pressed the cast button on your phone, and when you did actually want to cast something, it wasn't exactly reliable. So when I found out that the newest Chromecasts were beefed up, given a remote and had a sleeker version of Android TV installed, I was intrigued to say the very least. And on top of that, reviews online paint this thing as like the greatest thing to ever happen in the Android TV box space. But is that really the case? Well, let's just take a look at what you get out of the box first. On top, we have the Chromecast and the remote all boxed up and ready to go. And underneath that, you'll find the power brick, because you can't just plug this thing into your TV's USB port, it requires too much power. And beside that, the freakishly long USB-C cable that comes along with it. Which brings me to the first thing I actually do love about this thing, USB-C. Sure, Google would have to be taking the piss not to use USB-C, but nevertheless, it's nice to have considering the previous generations used micro USB, the worst thing to ever grace this planet. So that's nice. Taking a look at the Chromecast itself, it's rocking a relatively similar design to the previous generation in terms of shape and the fact that it's still a dongle, only this time it's got a more oval shape and the matte white is also a very welcome new color. I really do like how this thing looks, it's minimalistic, and because of that it won't make whatever setup you've got going look like a clown show, which is always nice to know. But since it's going to be behind the TV for the most part, the design doesn't really matter, does it? What does matter on the other hand is this thing right here. The remote. Now, I'm gonna set the record straight off the bat. This is one of the best feeling TV remotes I've ever held. Not the best, but it's definitely up there. From the feel in the hand to the not so loud but very clicky and consistent buttons, I can tell you that it's a great remote. It's pretty small, so initially I thought there's no way I'll actually like it, but everything is just positioned really well on it, and it's not just using up a bunch of real estate for the sake of it. The buttons you have on there are really all the buttons you'll ever need, except for the Netflix and YouTube buttons, but of course you can remap them, so there's no issues there. You don't have to strain your fingers to reach the power button or anything, it's all at the center of your palm, and I've never had this thing disconnect or not be extremely responsive. So while it's not your traditional remote, it is a really nice one. But none of that would matter at all if the device itself was ass, right? So what are we working with? The Chromecast 4K, and just to be specific here guys, this video is about the Chromecast 4K and not the HD model. I say that because there are some pretty big differences between the two, and so you'd really need a whole different review for the HD model. The Chromecast 4K is running a quad-core AM Logic S905X3 processor, not to be confused with the S905X4 that can be found in more expensive and more powerful devices. It's got 2 GB of RAM and 8 GB of storage space, and it can display a maximum resolution of 4K at 60 Hz. It's also got Dolby Vision and Dolby Atmos capabilities, which for the price is pretty crazy. One thing I would have loved to see would have been Wi-Fi 6, but you win some, you lose some, you can't have them all, right? The Chromecast runs a special version of Android TV 12, and it's called Google TV, which in my opinion looks and feels really nice. It's very smooth and snappy, I rarely ever get any lag or slowdowns, but overall, the truth is it's not really that much different to any other Android TV devices out there in terms of software. It just looks a bit more polished. I guess Google just wanted to make the Chromecast sound a bit more special in the infinite world of Android boxes and dongles. But how does this Chromecast actually serve in 2024? Well, in all honesty, if you want to use this thing for something like Netflix, Prime Video, or YouTube, you know, the general streaming apps, first of all, what are you doing, man? But second, yeah, it'll work literally perfect. No slowdowns at all, no frame drops, smooth like butter. But let's be brutally honest here. You're buying an Android TV box. You can't hide. You're not really here for Netflix and YouTube, are you? It's okay, your secret's safe with me, man, don't worry. In that case, I'm assuming you're using something like Kodi or any other application that may or may not let you sneak by some of that copyright law. Well, here's where I had some minor issues. When I first tried to watch any large files, any really high bitrate content, let's just say anything above 30 gigabytes for a 2-hour movie, the Chromecast would have some noticeable stutter. And if you're like me, stutter while watching a crispy 4K HDR movie is enough to make you put your head through the nearest wall. Now, because of that, I gave the Chromecast a factory reset, which is today's equivalent of smacking something really hard, and now the problems seem to have gone. But nevertheless, it's definitely still something to point out. I really don't think this thing was made with ridiculously high bitrate content in mind, so don't expect to be watching any 90 gigabyte movies on the Chromecast. But otherwise, it's a great little device for the price. Now, I will have links to buy anything I mention here down in the description, but just so you know, they are Amazon referral links, meaning if you do buy using my link, I get a little something and it won't cost you a cent more. So if you do want to show some support and you're in the market for an Android TV box like the Chromecast, make sure to use one of the links below. Anyway, the 2 gigs of RAM does sound like it could be a potential problem, right? And I'll admit it was my biggest worry, making me a bit hesitant to buy the Chromecast. But I never really saw usage creep up over 1.5 gigs, so really it is fine. On the other hand, what I really didn't like is the 8 gigabytes of storage. 8 gigabytes is laughable in 2024, but if you only use this to stream content, it'll be fine. Sure, space will still be tight, but if you really only get your essentials and don't plan on storing movies on the Chromecast, again, you'll be as snug as a bug in a rug. So is the Chromecast with Google TV 4K worth it in 2024, almost 4 years later? I'd say yes, but depending on what your expectations are from this device. Keep in mind you're paying €70 or dollars or whatever British pound equivalent, or maybe even less if you're getting it on sale. So it's definitely more on the budget side of media players. The truth is, it's not the most powerful Android box out there. 4K content on something like Streamio and Kodi will run pretty great. But if you consider yourself a power user and want to watch the highest quality, highest bitrate content files out there, then you could benefit from something in a similar price range with a bit more power like a Firestick 4K Max. Or you can go a bit higher in price and get any Google certified S905X4 Android box out there like the Mecool KM6 Deluxe, for example. All of which will of course be linked down in the description below. But if you're a normal person who just likes to watch high quality content at an affordable price, the Chromecast 4K is not only good, but actually still absolutely great in 2024. With all that being said, I hope you did enjoy this video, and I hope it did answer any questions you may have had, and if it did, you're welcome. But on that note, I hope you have a great night, and I'll see you next time.